This is the WrestleBread Podcast, bringing you the latest news, recaps, and analysis of AEW and WWE. Get the unique perspective from a wrestling fan of over 25 years. Here's your host, Jaydee.
What's going on, guys? This is Jaydee here, and this is episode 35 of the WrestleBread Podcast. I know it's like 2 weeks in, but Happy New Year. I hope your New Year was nice and peaceful. Mine was nice. It wasn't exactly peaceful. I live in a neighborhood where everyone buys their own fireworks and decides to shoot a gun in the air at the stroke of midnight. Luckily, no bullets have come down that I've heard of. But it was pretty quiet. I mean, I watched the ball drop, and I normally open up my curtains, turn off the lights, and watch the fireworks in the neighborhood. I'm really not that type of person that go out on New Year's Eve. I have it on my bucket list to celebrate New Year's in a different city or country or something like that. But I don't know. I don't feel like going out on New Year's Eve, mainly because I have to get back home, and you're trying to get back home with everyone else on the road. So I just rather be in my own house, eat food, just chill, watch the ball drop, say Happy New Year's to everyone, text everyone, and then just kind of go to sleep. My Christmas was pretty good as well. I don't know if I said it on the podcast yet, but I did get Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order for Christmas. I got a $75 PlayStation gift card as well. I got a set of Dallas Cowboys gloves. I got this Cowboys calendar for 2020 where, it's a daily calendar. You rip off a page for each day and it gives you trivia and all this other stuff. And so far, 14 days in, this calendar has a fascination with the Cowboys from 2017. So a lot of the facts and trivia so far that it's been asking is from the season of 2017. I don't know why, but that's where we're at. A lot of craziness happened in wrestling. Kind of ended on a crazy note with the wedding of the century or decade, I don't know what the heck they were calling it, between Lana and Bobby Lashley, which I have to say was pretty terrible. Slightly disappointed that we had Liv Morgan return, but she returned as the lesbian or bisexual lover of Lana. I don't know where that came from. There is no indication that Liv was involved with Lana. They tried to clean it up on social media by showing pictures of them together, but it was a hot mess. I know that WWE is very excited because everyone was talking about it, everyone was watching it, but that whole segment is a hot mess. The storyline's a hot mess. I still don't know what the end game is. I mean, well, now they're divorced and she has remarried someone else, but I'm not understanding why Rusev isn't happily moving on, and he's still on to Lana and wanting to beat up Bobby Lashley. Maybe it was something that I missed. I probably missed the memo. We also had, I'm not going to go too deep into the situation with Lars Sullivan. I just find it kind of ironic. I always find it ironic when someone talks down about either a group of people or just qualities of someone, and they themselves have the same quality. So it kind of reminds me of, like, I don't know. I wouldn't say Disney movie, but maybe a Hallmark. No, not even Hallmark. Hallmark's depressing. I would say Disney. One of the after-school specials, the bully who picks on the small kid, come to find out the bully can't read type of thing. It is what it is. Everyone has skeletons in their closet. But I'm very interested in what WWE is going to do with him now. I believe he is set to return soon. Maybe we'll see him in the Royal Rumble, maybe not. AEW kind of ended on a very quiet note. The last episode of AEW Dynamite resulted in 0 viewers, apparently. But there was an episode of AEW Dynamite on. It was just mainly highlights of past AEW episodes. So I find it kind of hard to believe that no one tuned in to watch it. Maybe it was just so low that they just rounded down to 0. But I did tune in and watch maybe 5 minutes of it and turn off. That's probably why it's at 0. And AEW is back up. I believe it hit 900,000 this past week as well. But things are kind of still the same to me for AEW. The women's division, it's a mess. Brandy has the Nightmare Collective where, Awesome Kong collecting weaves again. It really gives me straight edge society vibes with the woman who shaved her head in order to join Brandy. And then they tease someone with a bald head, which they debuted this past Wednesday. His name is Luther, I think it is. He reminds me of, I think it's pronounced Varys from Game of Thrones, just completely bald. The thing that I really do not like that AEW does is that they introduce people on the episodes, and Excalibur mainly hypes it up like we're supposed to know who this person is. I have no idea who Luther is or Luficer. I forgot what his name was. Apparently he is popular in death matches, I think it was. But it's how are we supposed to know this? So unfortunately, because the way they debuted this guy, no one cares. And then they're going to turn around and create some nice vignettes, or he'll start having some good matches and people start to care again. They did the same thing with the Dark Order, with the Butcher, the Blade, and the Bunny, and even with Hangman Page. I completely agree of not putting the title on Hangman Page, and it's because no one really knows who he is or a reason to get behind him. I wish they introduced Ali as the Bunny, because I find her more interesting now as the Bunny than I did when she was out, just straight Ali. I still don't know anything really about the Butcher and the Blade and why I should be interested in them. What else? The Dark Order, they're still not good. They ended the show last year with a run-in from the Dark Order, and I felt as though the Dark Order isn't strong enough to be, the main event. The last shot is them standing tall. But, I think eventually AEW is going to learn their lesson. And like I keep saying, they're now realizing, Cody Rhodes and all the VPs of AEW, they're realizing that it's a little tough putting on a weekly show and having to do all these different storylines to keep things interesting. Unfortunately, I have predictions of what may happen this year. And one of my predictions as far as AEW, and some people may get upset with it, but I will explain why, is that AEW will eventually go under 500,000 this year. The reason why I say that is because AEW hasn't really done anything to improve with their weekly shows. Their weekly shows are starting to air as if they've been on for years. They're at this plateau. The highlights will always be, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and Cody Rhodes. MJF will bring the heat. People will boo him out of the building. They really do not spotlight the right women in the women's division. Riho was supposed to have a title match against Statlander, Chris Statlander, I think her name is. But unfortunately, the Nightmare Collective interfered, which should have been a good match. And your women's champion is pretty over, and she's barely on the TV. Whereas though every single week we're getting Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle. There's something wrong with that. And it seems like AEW's not learning their lesson, because now we're still getting nothing but Chris Jericho in the Inner Circle. That is like the main focus. Very similar. Now I'm starting to see why people are saying it's very similar to WCW. The Inner Circle is now the NWO, where the show kind of revolves around them. And because they're revolving this show around a single group, a lot of different pieces of AEW are not being highlighted like it should, especially the women's division. AEW's women's division is one of the weakest divisions I've seen. Of course, NXT women's division blows them out of the water. Raw's women's division and even SmackDown women's division are a bit better than AEW's. Mainly because the wrestlers who are very over are not being put over. And on top of that, they're really trying to do these gimmicks with Chris Statlander as an alien. They have this Nightmare Collective. Instead of just displaying what the women's division can do, they're so tied up in trying to do a storyline and a gimmick. Just let the women wrestle. Just let them show what they can do. And then you can start introducing storylines and things like that. But I feel as though AEW viewership is going to fall because we're into WrestleMania season. So there's going to be a lot of eyes on WWE, and AEW is going to try to get traction. But unfortunately for AEW, I think once the Royal Rumble hits, as we know, we have the Worlds Collide the day before Royal Rumble, and it's going to be NXT versus NXT UK. We're also going to have the Royal Rumble the next day, which I believe will have a lot of the main NXT wrestlers featured. We're also going to have, leading up to WrestleMania, I'm sure they're going to be promoting the heck out of NXT. And because of that, I feel that more people will tune into NXT because we're going to have the next NXT Takeover at Mania, which is going to be very popular, of course, because it's WrestleMania weekend. And it's going to put more eyes on NXT than it is on AEW. AEW is really starting to hit this plateau, in my opinion, where things are pretty much the same. And because of that, people are going to want something that's more fresh every single week. So they're going to start tuning into NXT. Now, on the flip side of that prediction, I predict that NXT may hit very close to 1 million, if not go over. And that is because of WrestleMania season with NXT TakeOver coming out. We have Rhea Ripley, who is now champion. It seems like they're teasing Rhea Ripley versus Candice LeRae. And they're also teasing, of course, with Worlds Collide coming up, the Undisputed Era versus Imperium. So I feel as though more people are going to tune into NXT because it's WrestleMania season. They're going to be pulling out all the stops to try to get as many people as they can to, tune into NXT, tune into Raw, tune into SmackDown, tune into NXT UK, just so, it's the end. Pretty much, in my opinion, this is towards the end of WWE season versus what they normally say is the season ending in September. I will also say that this year, Becky Lynch is going to lose her title, and I feel that we're going to start seeing the decline of the saga that is the man. Becky Lynch is still popular, of course, but now, like I said, her run to become champion was more exciting than it is now that she's champion. She doesn't have that dynamic opponent that really drives you behind her. Now she's in this feud with Asuka, and the way that they're doing this feud is that she is like more vulnerable and like, oh, Asuka beat me, I need to beat Asuka. You don't see that confident, badass Becky Lynch that you've been seeing when she was going against Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair and Bayley as well. And I think that because of that, she's going to start to lose that mystique that everyone loves about her. I will also predict that Bray Wyatt will also lose his title this year as well. And I believe between Becky Lynch and The Fiend losing their titles, one of those losses is going to piss a lot of people off. Now, I thought that I always said when they put the title on Bray Wyatt that WWE has painted themselves in a corner because eventually Bray Wyatt has to lose that title. And it's a matter of who he loses the title to and how he loses the title. Now, with the reemergence of the Yes Movement, I figured, okay, it makes sense for Daniel Bryan to take the title off of Bray Wyatt because everyone loves Daniel Bryan and he can use the power of the Yes Movement to overcome the phenom that is the Fiend. But it seems like we're getting that match at the Royal Rumble versus WrestleMania, so I'm a bit confused as to what the plan is here. Now, the scary concept is Brock Lesnar has entered the Royal Rumble at number 1. I don't know if this means the title is on the line or if he's just in the Royal Rumble and they're trying to do a very crazy concept that I hope they're not trying to do of Brock 2 belts, where Brock Lesnar wins the Royal Rumble and then we have Brock Lesnar versus The Fiend at WrestleMania. There is a rumor floating around, there's a picture floating around of a potential card for WrestleMania that has Tyson Fury versus Brock Lesnar. I highly doubt that's the case. I think that Tyson Fury only appeared for Crown Jewel mainly to get his money's worth. But WWE does like to put out, a celebrity from time to time for WrestleMania. So I don't know if they are really going to go through with Tyson Fury versus Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. I really hope not, because normally, WrestleMania is supposed to be one of the most exciting pay-per-views of the year. And for them to pull this off with potentially Brock Lesnar winning, it's going to be a complete waste of time of everything. It also seems like there's going to be a mixed tag match of Bobby Lashley and Lana versus Rusev and Liv Morgan I saw. I forgot what else was on that card. If you remember, you can always tweet me at WrestleBread or at Jaydee Talks of what was also listed on there. I haven't really got a chance to watch NWA Power as of recently. I do know that Stu Bennett is a commentator now. I did watch a little bit of an episode of him commentating. He sounds really good, but I haven't watched in a while, so I have no idea what's going on right now. I do know the Rock and Roll Express was the tag team champions. I think they lost it. I'm not sure. I probably haven't watched the past 3 or 4 weeks of NWA Power. So, there goes that. I did watch NXT Takeover UK. Very good match. I tuned into it late because I completely forgot it started so early in the day. I knew it was coming on Saturday, but I assumed that it was in the late afternoon versus the morning. But I did catch I caught on to towards the end of the women's triple threat match of Kaylee Ray versus Toni Storm versus Jordan Piven, I think her name is. And from what I saw, it was pretty good. And then I did see Walter versus Gallus. That was an okay match. I knew that Walter would win. Very exciting that at the end you see the Undisputed Era come out, take out the Imperium, even take out Walter and stand tall. Now I have to say, I love watching the UK crowd because they always pull out these crazy chants, and it's just like they had some type of meeting beforehand of what they're going to chant, because they're always on point. It's always unique. So it was the match between Devlin versus Tyler Bates, and they did this like chant for Tyler Bates. It kind of reminded me also of when they were doing the Jordan Gable chant as well. And then when they also did the song for Bailey too. It's just really special. And I really, really hope that one day there'll be a WrestleMania over there. I would definitely go if they have a WrestleMania over there. I love the international crowds. The Raw After Manias is always my favorite because they always do these unique chants. It's like they just have so much fun, you know. It's, and there's people who, you know, crapped on the crowd, but you have to understand, like, you're going there, they go there and they have fun. They make the show fun. You would have thought that was like WrestleMania that was going on at that takeover. The way that the crowd was into it and they were cheering and they were chanting and everything. And it just reminded me of when I went to WrestleMania and the Raw After Mania with, you know, those crazy internationals. They are a hell of a lot of fun to be around. The Raw After Mania I did was for 30, and we did the wave. We did, we sung and this was back when it was the Wyatt family, when everyone was singing He's Got the Whole World in His Hands. We were singing that, waving our arms back and forth. It was just craziness, and it was a lot of fun. But I wish that there was a WrestleMania over in the UK. If there was, I would definitely go. And if anyone's listening from the UK and there's a WrestleMania over there, you definitely gotta let us Americans know where to go, where to have the fun, where the party's at. Teach me your chants. Let me know, like, what song we're gonna sing, you know, when, how, and where. And the way they are at wrestling events is the same way that they are at soccer events too. If you've never seen a soccer event over there, well, they call it football over there. But they're crazy with that too, with the chants and everything like that. But it was a lot of fun watching NXT TakeOver as well. I just finished up Raw. Very interesting Raw indeed. We had a little bit more of the Bobby Lashley, Lana, and Rusev, Liv Morgan saga. I don't know where they're going with this storyline. It seems like Lana is taking advantage of Bobby Lashley now, even though it started out that Bobby Lashley was the one taking advantage of her. And she hasn't really acknowledged, at least to my knowledge, of her relationship with Liv Morgan. If they actually had a relationship, or if Liv Morgan's being just delusional. I don't know why Rusev is still fighting Bobby Lashley after he got divorced, and he's claiming that he's a lot happier without Lana. We also had an excellent match between Aleister Black and Buddy Murphy. Very good match between those two. Buddy Murphy losing for the third time in a row, and he sat on the outside the ring up against the barricade for the rest of the show after that. We had a street fight match between Big Show, Kevin Owens, and Samoa Joe versus Seth Rollins and AOP. And there was a little part during the match where Rollins was thrown to the outside. He landed near Buddy Murphy, asked Buddy Murphy for help, and eventually Buddy Murphy went in to help. So now Buddy Murphy has something to do. It was very exciting, though, of his feud between him and Aleister Black, but unfortunately, Aleister Black dominated that feud, so there really wasn't much more for Buddy Murphy to do. I wonder what they're going to do now with Rollins and Buddy Murphy and AOP. I guess they're going to tease another big return, and we're going to get, probably Kane this time. I was kind of excited when they were teasing that they're the third partner for Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens last week, but that surprise was a returning Big Show. I like Big Show, but I don't know why you would tease such a big return. Like, I get it because he's the Big Show, big return. I get that, but not something that would make people mark out and jump up and down for. We also got, it just escaped me. We had the contract signing between Becky Lynch and Asuka. Asuka speaking in Japanese is the best thing ever, because she's very intense. And she, of course, spit that green mist into Becky's eyes, and Becky was sitting there screaming and getting a towel in her eyes and everything. I don't know. It's just very weird that we're getting a more humble and less confident Becky Lynch than we normally get. Hopefully this will be a good match. I highly doubt they're going to drop the title to Asuka. Because there is a rumor that Ronda Rousey may return, and the event for WrestleMania will be Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch. But I like Asuka, and I really want Asuka to win the Raw Women's title one day. But I don't think it's going to happen with this time. What else happened tonight on Raw? Oh, Eric Rowan with the whatever it is in that cage that they keep teasing. It's giving very strong, what's this? That stupid turkey. It's giving me those vibes. The gobbledygooker or some, whatever. Whatever. I forgot his name. It's giving me those strong vibes. And especially with him going in these infinite squash matches, I don't know what they're doing with Eric Rowan. I don't know what feud they're going to eventually put him in, but I'm seriously tired of him going against all these no-name people. And they're peeking into the cage and they start screaming and everything. I was making jokes that it could be a gremlin, one of the gremlins in there. Until I think it was last week, where the opponent put their face to the cage, and I guess they got bit because they got red all over their face. And then this week, Eric Rowan puts his hand in the cage and he gets bit. So I really have this strong feeling that it's one of the puppets from the Firefly Funhouse, and that is going to start the next feud. That's my guess. Like, I feel like there's not going to be a big payoff. I feel like once we see what's in the cage, we're going to be like, oh. And I think it's one of the puppets. If it's not one of the puppets, then I don't know. I don't know what. But I was trying to figure out what puppet has been kind of missing from the Firefly Funhouse. I mean, of course, we've seen the Rambling Rabbit, because the Rambling Rabbit got killed off again after he tried to tell Daniel Bryan how to defeat the Fiend. So maybe it's the buzzard. I highly doubt it's the witch or the pig. Huskus the pig or Abby the witch. I think it may be the buzzard. Because I don't know what will make people scream. And I don't know what would, bite someone to the point that would bleed. But give me your opinion. Let me know what you think is in the cage. What's in the cage? What's in the box? If you haven't seen Seven, you should really see Seven. It's a pretty good movie. If you watch football, it's been a crazy weekend with the playoffs. I actually had Baltimore winning this weekend, but of course they lost. Tennessee is really trying to scare people. So now we have Green Bay and San Fran going against Tennessee and Kansas City this upcoming weekend for the championship games. I'm kind of hoping that we get San Fran and Kansas City, or we get Kansas City and Green Bay. The young quarterback versus the old quarterback. That would be interesting. But definitely shout out to Jimmy Johnson for getting into the Hall of Fame. If you haven't seen it yet, Jimmy Johnson was told that he was being put into the Hall of Fame this year live on TV. The same with Bill Cowher from the Texans. He was the head coach of the Texans. I actually like him as well. They were both told that they were going to be into this year's Hall of Fame live on TV. And with Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman was actually watching as well, and they kept cutting to him. And you just see the tears in his eyes. Everyone had tears in their eyes as well. But back to wrestling. Very interesting turning events for everything. We have the Usos who returned. Sheamus has returned, and he turned heel as well. No, I haven't heard anything about Naomi. I really haven't been keeping up with rumors and news as well. But I haven't heard anything about Naomi, if she's returning or when she's returning as well. Randy Orton, amazing as always with the biggest fake out. He pulled the best Mark Henry ever, where you thought he was hurt to the point that he couldn't wrestle at WrestleMania. Come to find out, he is completely fine. Also tonight, R-Truth is just gold. If you missed it on Monday Night Raw, Paul Heyman was cutting a promo about Brock Lesnar being in the Royal Rumble, and Paul Heyman was sitting there saying that he speaks the truth and the truth shall set you free. And then R-Truth randomly comes out and he declares that he is going to be in the Royal Rumble. And he said, I know you're very, very big, but I think I can, you'll go over the top rope, Paul Heyman. And that brought so much laughter out of Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar completely lost it. Paul Heyman kept a straight face, of course, and said, I'm not in the Royal Rumble. Brock Lesnar's in the Royal Rumble. And then R-Truth turned around and said that he is declaring that he is out of the Royal Rumble, which got Brock Lesnar to laugh even more. And it was a pretty funny segment. It really didn't do much, for the fact that Brock Lesnar is in the Royal Rumble, but it was a pretty funny segment. Now, Royal Rumble is one of my favorite pay-per-view events because it's very unpredictable with the people that are entering the Royal Rumble. The past year or two has kind of been a bit disappointed with the surprises that they normally did. I remember the year that they had Ty Dillinger, Shawn Spears now, debuted it at the Royal Rumble at number 10, which I thought was completely awesome. But normally they have like quite a few surprises, even though they're not going to win sometimes. But it was nice to have the unpredictability come out with the Royal Rumble of surprise returns and people coming back to wrestle in the Royal Rumble for a one-time only type of thing. And I'm really hoping that we're going to get that again with the men's and the women's Royal Rumble. I mean, who remembers Trish Stratus coming back in the Royal Rumble as well? A big tragedy is Bayley and Sasha Banks. I thought that Sasha Banks would really have a big momentum as, top heel for SmackDown, but it seems like she's been getting beat up by everyone. And it's a bit disappointing. And looking at her social media, it seems like now she is all about the money versus winning, which kind of contradicts what happened at last year's WrestleMania. But hey, I guess money talks, you get a nice, big, juicy contract and you just willing to take whatever and not lay out on the floor in the middle of the hotel screaming how upset you are that you lost your title. But hey, I guess, money talks. But I was hoping that Sasha Banks would be a little more dominant. Even, be dominant going against Becky Lynch, but it seems like that's not what is planned for Sasha Banks. So I'm going to cut this short. It is like almost midnight right now, and I have to work in the morning. So, and I really didn't get a chance to really watch NXT either. I did kind of glance over AEW. I normally watch AEW on Wednesdays because I have some other obligations to take care of, and AEW Dynamite is normally a bit in the background while I'm like kind of watching it off and on. And I normally catch NXT the next day, but this is always a crazy time of year, dealing with Christmas and all the holidays, and I have birthdays 2 weeks, actually 1 week after New Year's. 2 birthdays within 5 days apart. So a lot of craziness and me not really paying too much attention to wrestling, which is why this is a short episode and why I don't have much info. So I do apologize. I'll be a lot more prepared come next week for episode 36 of the podcast. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at Jaydee Talks. That's JAYDEE Talks. And follow the podcast at WrestleBread as well. Be sure to let me know your thoughts of what's coming up this week as well. The next episode, I'll be talking more about the things that's going on with AEW and WWE. I'll probably go more into my predictions for this year as well. But let me know what your predictions are for 2020. The year 2020, not the decade, but let me know what your predictions are for 2020. Do you think that AEW will kind of fall down a little bit before it goes back up? Do you see NXT rising up? Do you see any disappointments? Do you see any successes for anyone? And just let me know. So, until next time, guys, peace.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Check us out at WrestleBread.com and subscribe to WrestleBread on YouTube for more breaking news and JD's opinions.